Fox News alert now. More details about the fatal missile strike that killed 2 in Poland, just miles from its border with Ukraine. As we learn, it was reportedly a Ukrainian defense missile fighting back against a Russian attack, the greatest missile attack since the 9-month war began. GOP Congressman, no stranger to war, former Navy SEAL, joins us now. Dan Crenshaw, great to see you. What are your thoughts, and what could you tell us is the latest news about the strike that took down the missile that killed 2 Polish farmers?
Well, I think we all breathed a sigh of relief when we found out this was not an intentional offensive attack by Russia, which would, of course, have a huge amount of ramifications. A deliberate attack on a NATO country would, of course, trigger Article 5 and a whole number of other questions. But this wasn't that. This was an air defense system that went astray. I think it does make clear that air defense systems are important, and more important than that are good air defense systems. You know, I for one, would call on the Israelis to stop being neutral in this fight and help supply Ukrainians with, say, their Iron Dome air defense systems, which are superior. That may be one lesson from this. I would also say, look, the Russians get desperate sometimes when they start to lose. They obviously had to leave Kherson, and when they have a loss on the battlefield, they'll do things like this. It's also proof that our investment has paid off quite well. It's been pretty amazing to see the Ukrainians make the accomplishments that they've made, effectively neuter Russia, and also send China a very strong message that if they were to invade Taiwan, the West will unite. I continue to say that this has massive strategic importance for us.
Congressman, we got to get our allies to pay. Germany's not coming across what they're supposed to. Other NATO nations are not writing the checks, not providing the armaments they promised. They need to be called out publicly. Number 2, when you look at the map, and we'll put it up right now, of what Russia has taken and what the Ukrainians have taken it back, at what point do you think, if you were the Ukrainian Zelensky and you know how much, what a price you've paid already, do you stop before you get all the red and back from turning it blue, and the blue is the recaptured land? Do you think we should tell them when to stop, and when do you think they should stop?
Yeah, I think we've probably tried to tell them a number of things, and they're not going to stop. You know, I visited Ukraine back in May, and I was overwhelmed by how unified they were, that they will fight for every inch of territory. So we can tell them whatever we want. It is not going to change the facts on the battlefield. You're completely right that there's countries like Germany that have not stepped up. There's plenty of countries who have. I wouldn't say that we're the only ones. There's plenty of countries who even exceed their expenditures as a percentage of GDP. You know, when we look at what we're going to spend next, I would argue that we should spend it purely on munitions. Purely on munitions. We put a lot of the money that we often spend is for humanitarian aid. Why can't Germany do that? If Germany's so afraid of giving Ukrainian weapons, fine, then you take the entire bill with humanitarian aid. I think that would be a very good, you know, if Republicans were writing this bill, I think that's the kind of thing that we would say.
All right, and right now, would you say that the Russian threat has been diminished because of this operation? And had they been successful, all the Baltic nations, all the other nations in their orbit would have probably been feasted on already?
That's absolutely right, Brian, and I know you and I agree on this, that Putin has many other ends besides just Ukraine, right? He's got the Baltic states. There's no reason to believe that he wouldn't eventually look at Romania if he had just rolled through Ukraine unopposed. There's no reason to think that Romania wouldn't be next on his list. This guy has made it very clear in his own doctrine, in his own speeches, in his own writing, that he is not trying to preserve anything. He is trying to expand it. He doesn't even see himself as the old Soviet Union. He sees himself as an old czar, which is an imperialist Russia. This is very clear. This is within his psyche, and you have to stop him in his tracks. The Ukrainians understand this very well, and we're extremely lucky that they're the ones making all the sacrifices on the battlefield, and all we have to do is give them some bullets.
Absolutely, and that's all we ask. His marathon speech was canceled. He didn't show up at the G20. There is chaos within Moscow. One is led to believe. Congressman Dan Crenshaw, thanks so much. We'll have you back. We didn't get to the border, but because we wanted to handle the breaking news, but thank you.
It's all right. Thanks, Brian.